Welcome to Savvy Talk, brought to you by Do Business.
Joining us today is Omar Almheiri, the founder and chief technical officer at Letswork. Letswork is an app that helps you find the co-working space all in one place that's right for you. In this episode, we learn more about the evolution of the co-working space in Dubai, how he built this app, and the difficulties he faced during COVID lockdown and how they bounced back. I'm really excited for you to hear this episode in my conversation with Letswork founder, Omar Almheiri. Hello, Omar, and welcome to another episode of Inspiring Growth. I'm so delighted to have you on the show today.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. Ramadan Kareem.
Ramadan Kareem to you too.
How has your Ramadan been so far?
Yeah, good. I mean, it's always hard. I think the hardest thing is the coffee, I guess. But alhamdulillah, we're pushing through.
You're pushing through. Let's talk about your journey and your business, Letswork. How did Letswork come about?
I mean, we had a bit of an interesting start, to be honest. My co-founder Hamza and I, we actually joined the EMAAR as entrepreneurs in residence. And with that, we had to basically find like a startup idea or some sort of service that we can come up with that will end up either, helping EMAAR's core competencies. Obviously, EMAAR looks at real estate, hospitality, entertainment, and commercial leasing. So we thought of, how can we tackle innovate in the space of commercial leasing and hospitality. So that's kind of how the idea of Letswork came up, where we said, there's all these underutilized spaces in F&B outlets or hotels that are not being utilized to their full potential. And then you have this whole other side with freelancers and startups that are just up and coming in the UAE that don't actually have an office that they can, call their home, let's say. So we brought the two together and we connected it with a simple tech platform. This was back in 2018 when we did our first beta version. And essentially, Letswork ended up becoming, a platform that connects users to on-demand workspaces.
It's amazing. And I went through your website and saw you have a wide range of outlets that people can choose from to work from. In one sentence, what problem does Letswork fix?
So I think Letswork gets you the most productive workspace. And I think what I mean by that is it's really hard to pinpoint, especially if you're remote working. It's really hard to figure out, okay, where am I going to work from today? Usually if you go to like the typical coffee brands, sometimes it's not the best experience. What we do is we partner with co-working spaces, hotels and cafes to ensure that you have the most productive day.
Growing a business is not easy. You were entrepreneurs in residence, you came up with a concept, and then you developed this platform. How did you get customers and how did you actually take this idea of an app into a full-time business?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, when we first launched, we actually adopted like a bootstrapping strategy in place. So we found the first 20 customers just by people sitting next to us. So the idea was actually born out of the Rove hotels, specifically the Rove downtown. So Hamza and I would actually work from there and to get out of the office, to be honest, because I rather work in like a more casual environment. That's kind of where more ideas come out, I think. And we had about 20 people sitting on that table doing exactly the same thing. So then we pitched to them. We said, why don't you guys pay a membership fee? And then out of that, you can get free tea, coffee and water, 20% discount of food, and then you can have this place to call your office. So we pitched that to 20 people, and that was enough for us to at least have a proof of concept and say, what, we can actually take this forward. And funnily enough, one of those members actually helped us develop our first platform, which was just a simple web-based platform. After that, it's just more on word of mouth. It's just those first 20, can they convince 5 other people to bring another member into the Letswork space.
So you had to do 2 things. One is you had to get customers early. You got those initial 20 and then they brought other people. But then you also had a B2B effort that you had to make to get all these businesses to allow you to bring all these people into their cafes, right?
Yeah. The businesses part wasn't as easy. Obviously starting out, I think with any marketplace, right, you deal with supply and demand. And the issue with our kind of supply is it's not like conventional workspaces. So just them to buy into the idea when you don't even have a brand or that like trustworthy name, it was really hard. However, what I found was when we were starting out, the F&B market is super saturated here, and that's kind of why we started with hotels and cafes first. There's so many of them. There was only a handful of co-working spaces.
So how did you actually do that? Like, how did you convince these businesses without a brand, without a reputation? You weren't really an official, you didn't have like a whole, you didn't have a formal setup in their eyes probably. How did you convince them?
A couple of things that we did. Number one, we kind of spotted, I think on Google Maps, you can kind of see trends of spaces. So you can see when they're really quiet. So Hamza and I would actually go visit the space when it's quiet and pitch the idea to either the manager or like one of the waiters to basically like upsell. And this was early days. And to them, it was really cool because we gave them the full flexibility to basically list, delist, turn off their space during certain hours or if they have events. So to them, it was just like an additional revenue and additional footfalls. And like back then, we were completely free to list. So we just had like a open door policy, which allowed them to at least buy into the idea. And then there was a whole other challenge of bringing people to the door.
It's so smart though, because they have capacity and you basically are filling their capacity so that they're not sitting idle and empty. And the fact that you gave them flexibility to turn it off if they have high peak hours where they want other customers, you had that flexibility to do that. How did COVID change your business and your business model in general?
So we were at a really good place, I'd say Feb 2020 to really scale. Even our numbers started like doubling and tripling, and we started even seeing some corporate users. So some of the big four consultants, we'd see them buying memberships on an individual capacity. We knew something was up because we didn't even like double our marketing or anything. Then slowly you can hear from different people, oh, this thing is happening, it looks like we're gonna lock down like the rest of the world. And then obviously we reached, I think, the most visits ever with like the least amount of marketing on that week. Because everyone was like all companies were saying don't come back to the office, but then no one knew what was going on as well. COVID happened, we had to shut everything down, which was obviously tragic, but it allowed us to rethink. So we had like, let's say 1 week worth of people really like enjoying and taking remote working to the next level. What can we do? How can we make ourselves ready? And we came up with some pretty cool concepts with our partners. I think just to list one, we worked with the Rove hotels and we told them, once this lockdown eases up, people do want to get out of their homes, but they still want to feel safe in a private area. Hotel occupancies obviously were low because no one was traveling to the country. So we told them, we said, remove the beds out of a couple of empty rooms and we'll sell them on our platform as private offices. Until today, these are still pretty popular with our members right now.
Wow, that's incredible. How do you think the environment and how we work kind of affects our productivity and our performance and our overall happiness at work?
It affects it very much, right? You can't do your best work in a white light, no windows type of office, and I think that's what we're trying to really pitch to Letswork, to our Letswork members and to anyone who's trying to remote work. Just to clarify, we're not saying no to the office, but we're saying yes to the work-life balance. So just now I came from a new co-working space that actually opened up here called The Bureau. It's a beautiful space, and I sat down with my head of product, and it was going to be like a tough day of basically making some decisions on what we're going to be working on going forward. But the space actually does help you to really like feel like, okay, it's not the end of the world if we say no to a couple of things, but let's focus. And I really think it does come down to the space that you sat and working in.
I actually visited that space. It's beautiful. It's inspiring. It's very
really, really nice.
The design, the decor, it inspires creativity and discussion, and I really love it. So I want to take you to this next session called Do's and Don'ts. It's a new thing that we're trying, and it's basically I'll just give you like rapid fire questions where I give you a topic, and you have to say the do's and don'ts about that topic. So do's and don'ts about leadership.
Don't micromanage and delegate.
Do's and don'ts about co-working spaces.
Don't open a space without free parking. Always have natural light.
Marketing, do's and don'ts.
Don't let your CTO, aka me, deal with marketing. Give it to someone who has years of experience.
Okay, customer management.
Do it yourself until you understand what your customer wants. Don't outsource it to someone who doesn't understand your brand.
Do's and don'ts. Last one, business relationships.
Do them with reason. What I mean by that is like actually foster them and see what you want to get out of them. Don't attend every single event and think everyone's your friend.
That's a good one. That's such good advice. At what point did you consider your business a success? That like, you know what, I think we have something here.
I think there's like different milestones that we celebrate. I think the first one was when someone told me this a long time ago. They said, if you're making money while you're sleeping, it's a good thing, which kind of means that you've built the start of a flywheel. So I think that's like one success that, and we did that when it was just me, Hamza, and an intern. So we're super proud of that. I think to me, like when I still feel like we've done a good job, I don't think we've like completed our journey yet, but is when I meet our members and they tell me like, oh my God, you saved my life. You know, I was renting out this office and now I save money. Or they tell me like, now I can pick up my kid from school as opposed to just working from an office far away. So these, like them actually speaking to us is a huge part of why we do this. And then secondly, it helps us think that we're not just doing this just to build a business, but instead we're actually helping people.
You're changing their lives because you're giving them more flexibility. Last question for you, what do you see as the future of work in either co-working environments or in general, like the workplace market? How do you see the future of work?
I think there's two phases to it. I think we've reached the first phase where we've understood that physical presence is definitely needed with any job. I think just sitting and collaborating with people is super important. But I think we've learned to trust and allow people to go where they want, live their life, but still commit to the work that they want to do. And I think that's kind of created like a tangent, which is, I call it phase 2, where now I know everyone's the top of mind, AI is kind of like the hot topic of let's say this quarter. But I truly do believe that now our time will be spent a lot better and more efficient because all of these mundane tasks that we used to do will probably be taken care of now and will allow us to A, innovate, and B, actually, is 8 hours a day like the right time, the right amount of work, or can we switch that later on? So I think phase 2, we've still yet to see. And I think that's one thing that we can learn from freelancers and people that just literally work for themselves. They manage their time based on what they want to do in their lives. So you're kind of looking at them as like, oh, I'd love to live that kind of lifestyle, but I don't see why we can't do that with normal like day-to-day work.
I love it, Omar. I'm very excited about the future of work and the efficiency that AI will bring us, allowing us for more creativity, but also giving us time to actually be more productive.
Exactly.
Yeah. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much.
Do 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 do.